This is part two of our holiday series where we are tackling the things that we struggle with as women trying to conceive during the holiday season. Last week we talked about nosy family members and hard questions, and today we're talking about jealousy. So we see those Christmas themed or holiday themed pregnancy announcements, and it makes us jealous and sad and all the emotions. So today we're going to tackle a little bit of hope and a little bit of tangible tactical tips on how to deal with this emotion during the holidays. Let's go. So, before we jump into this topic of jealousy, I very quickly want to let you know that we are now on YouTube. So, as I'm recording this for the podcast, I'm also recording it on video, and we're going to kind of get the hang of this. So, if you are a YouTube person, Fruitful Fertility Co. is now on YouTube. Number two is that I have one more spot to work with me to go ahead and get started this month to jump start your 2026 fertility routine. If you have any interest in working with me, you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard about the program, and you're like, I'm interested and I just want to know more. I want you to use the application in the show notes to apply for a clarity call. This is where we'll hop on a free call for about 15, 20 minutes. You get to ask your questions. I'll make sure we're a good fit to work together, and we'll go from there. So if that is something that interests you, use the link in the show notes. Now, we are jumping into jealousy because this is the season it seems like everybody and their mom has a pregnancy announcement to make. And it's a cute holiday themed or they're surprising family members at Christmas. And you deeply want that to be you. Like you have the desire to announce your pregnancy at Christmas and you feel bad that you don't get to do that with your family. And so I really want to encourage you this season and help you through this feeling. So, the first thing I want to say is if you didn't listen to last week's episode, I want you to go back and listen to that because I talked about how we weren't going to avoid the hard questions. And the same is true here. We're not going to avoid the pregnancy announcements. We're going to go ahead and expect them. So, instead of sitting and just hoping and praying that we don't see any pregnancy announcements and then we do and we feel triggered by it, we're just going to go ahead and accept the fact that it's going to happen. And that's really going to help us. And then we're going to pre-decide how we are going to respond to those. I'm not going to go into that in depth because, again, I talked about that last week. So this is kind of compounding on that. But I did want to go ahead and mention those because I think it's two very important factors when we're dealing with jealousy. So go ahead and expect the pregnancy announcements and to pre-decide what you're going to say, how you're going to act instead of letting your emotions do the reaction for you. And that's going to make you feel a lot better. Okay. But specifically for jealousy, the number one thing we need to know about jealousy is that the Bible tells us not to do it. The Bible tells us over and over again not to be envious of anyone. And so it is a biblical principle to work on this. Now, we are human. We have what I call flesh defaults where we're going to feel jealousy, but we are going to take that thought captive and we are going to rewire it. Because I want you to know it's okay to be sad. It really is. This is not about like powering through your feelings and trying to avoid the way you feel, but it's about renewing our mind, like the Bible, like God calls us to, in a way that really supports our health. And there's a lot of verses on envy. You can, Google ChatGPT, like, hey, what are some verses on envy or jealousy, or even a Bible plan on the YouVersion Bible app would be an excellent idea to focus on through the holiday season. But I had one verse that really stuck out to me that I want to share with you on envy and jealousy. And that is Proverbs 14:30. And it says, let me find it. A peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. So, if you have listened to this podcast, you've heard me talk about nervous system regulation, how our body needs to feel safe enough to prioritize a pregnancy. So, how do we do that? One, we get in God's word and we take these jealous thoughts captive and don't let them overcome us. Because again, a peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. That's what we're aiming for, right? A healthy body and a healthy pregnancy. Jealousy is like cancer to the bones. It's very descriptive, very like, here's what we should be doing, right? So I want you to just know that I don't want you to shame yourself for feeling jealous, and I'm going to give you some more tips on like how to rewire this in your mind. I just want you to know that it is something we have to work on, that we are called to work on, to not envy, to not be jealous. So that again, that's Proverbs 14:30. Another verse that I want to use with this in conjunction with this to encourage you is Philippians 4:12 and 13. And this is where Paul is talking, and he says, I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. You have probably heard that verse before, but I want you to start really applying it to your life. So when you see these pregnancy announcements and it feels like a punch to the gut and you feel heartbroken and you feel this jealousy that you don't want to feel, I want you to think, I can do everything through Christ who strengthens me. You can overcome this jealousy because you have Christ in your pocket, working all things in your favor, right? For his glory. So those are two verses I want you to focus on. And then I also want you, as far as taking these thoughts captive, right? So we know now biblically we need to take these thoughts captive and rewire them. The Bible calls us to it. Here are the things I want you to keep in mind to help you rewire those thoughts. And number one is jealousy is a lie based on a subconscious limiting belief. So one time I was working with a life coach. She was wonderful. It was life-changing, honestly. But one thing she told me about jealousy is that if you experience jealousy or feel jealousy, it's because you believe that someone has something that you will never have. So not only do they have it and you want it, but deep down subconsciously you believe that you'll never have it. And that's really interesting to me, and especially as we look through it through this fertility lens, is there a subconscious belief in you that this is never going to happen for you? I'm sure there is. Like, we're human, right? And you've been trying for a long time and it's hard, and it makes sense that you would have that thought. But I want you to know that this is possible for you. If you are multitasking, come back to me. Listen right here. Pregnancy is possible for you. It is not impossible. Okay. So when we realize that jealousy is a lie, it helps us rewire that thought. So anytime you're having this little ping of jealousy when you see a pregnancy announcement, I want you to tell yourself, this jealousy I feel is a lie. And I have a few other affirmations that I think that will be really helpful for you. But this jealousy I feel is a lie is a really good one. If you have a pen and a piece of paper, I would write these down. Put them on post-it notes and put them around your mirror. Put them on a note in your phone, somewhere where you can come back to them. And I want you to find one that really like hits your heart hard, because here's a few that I have. Jealousy is a lie. I release comparison and choose joy through Christ. Because anytime we feel jealousy, it's because we're comparing our story to someone else's story. And that their story is not God's calling on our life. That's our story. And so we have to keep our blinders on, stay in our lane to what God has called us to and the timing He has for us, not what He has for other people. So I release comparison and choose joy through Christ. Number two is I do not envy others. I trust God's timing for my life. I do not envy others. I trust God's timing for my life. So just kind of like we talked about pre-deciding what you're actually going to say to people, I also want you to have these affirmations in the back of your mind so that when you see them, again, we're not letting emotion tell us what we're going to do or how we're going to feel. We already have these affirmations on deck to play through, like on loop in our mind, the soundtrack that we're playing in our mind. Okay. Jealousy is a lie. I release comparison and choose joy through Christ. I do not envy others. I trust God's timing for my life. Okay. I don't even know how I'm numbering these at this point, but let's call this number three. This is going to sound silly. You're going to hear me say this and you're going to be like, well, duh, Tori, but I really want you to take it to heart and really let it sink in. I want you to remember that there's not a set number of pregnancies or babies in the world. What happens sometimes when we experience jealousy is we see a pregnancy announcement, and somewhere in the back of our mind, we think, well, there went my chance. Like, she took my chance. If all these people are getting pregnant, then it's less likely that I'll get pregnant. But we have to remember that is not the case at all, at all. And this goes for anything like job promotions, um, anything else you want to compare it to, but there's not a set number of babies in the world. There's not a set number of pregnancies in the world. Her win does not mean that you lose. And in fact, in some ways, it could encourage you. Like, people are getting pregnant all the time. I can get pregnant too. This could happen for me. And that's number four, is swap your mindset to when you see a pregnancy announcement, not that she essentially took my chance from me, but pregnancy is happening all the time and I'm next. So that is your last affirmation. Pregnancy is happening all the time and I'm next. It allows us to not become fearful of pregnancy announcements or fearful of going to events or fearful of our friends becoming pregnant because we practice it. We renew our mind and we know that we are called to not envy or be jealous. And we have these affirmations on deck to help renew our minds like we are called to do. Because what I really want to help you do is build a Christ and life first fertility plan, meaning that we don't revolve our whole life around our plans to get pregnant. We also don't give up on it. This is not like a don't think about it and it'll happen, but that we are living our life the way Christ has called us to and finding joy in life and joy in Christ while we're trying to get pregnant instead of letting our fertility pull us down, right? So that's what this holiday series is all about. So write these affirmations down somewhere where you can keep them handy and you can refer to them anytime you need them. And if you need someone to talk to or want to reach out to me, just shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm happy to chat there with you. And otherwise, I will see you next week for part 3 of this holiday series.